Okay, let's throw together in this final episode a simple website. And I'm going to introduce you something called floats. So let's cover floats. Let's start off with just a few boxes and then we're going to implement a website. So let's do a box 1, a box 2, and a box 3. All right, I'm going to change the names of this. So you can imagine these as being just some kind of content on your website. So let's grab these. We're going to say box 1. I'm just going to add a arbitrary height to these and a width. Let's say 50% as a width, and a height I'm going to set something like 30 rem and hit save. All right, let's also add a background color to this, background light gray. So there it is. We can also change this so it looks more like a box. We can do a 30 rem. There we go. So that's one. And then let's copy this over, or actually what we can do is we can just duplicate this like so. All right, just so we also have the 30 rems on top of it. And then we can change the background colors. Box 2 is gonna be background of, you know what we can do? Actually, just add a border to this and not a background. So let's remove this and just add a border of 2 pixels. All right, so this is gonna be the size of the border. Solid is gonna be the type of the border. And finally, the color. We can just do black for now, okay? And basically we can change these to other ones, but they're not that nice. I can say dotted, but oh no, that looks terrible. So let's change back to solid, okay? Let's also add a bit of margin between these 10, let's do 1 rem. Okay, perfect. So I have these boxes. Let's also add some content to it. Let's make these larger a bit. Let's do 50. Okay, very nice. Larger, 80, very good. Okay, and I also want to show you another cool property. And here I'll just add a p tag, lorem50. Hit save. All right, just some text. And I can copy this over to box 2 and box 3 as well. Okay, just so we have some text. Okay, let's also add a font size here. So let's do font size and we're gonna do 2.8 rem. Okay, perfect. So we have our content. As you can see, if I just change this to smaller, we're gonna have an issue. We can scroll, and that's something that you probably might not want to do. So what you can do is you can also limit this, and I'm gonna introduce you something called max width. So if I change this to max width, let's see if that has any effect. If we make this smaller, as you can see, the maximum has to be 80, but it cannot go above that. It cannot go above that size of the pixel. So as soon as it goes over, it actually wraps the text around it. All right, so we're basically putting a limit over our width, okay? And this can be used also as minimum. So the text basically should have a minimum width of 80. It cannot be any smaller than this. That's what it says. So if I go smaller than that, it doesn't let it go smaller. So that's the maximum of the minimum, I should say. Okay, and we're gonna see this with height and everything, but for now, let's just leave it at max. So the text actually wraps around it. Perfect. Okay, very good. So that's step 1. Now let's take a look on how we can position these. I'm actually gonna make this full screen like this, and I'm gonna make it a bit smaller. Let's do 60. Okay, what if I want to have this content, so the second part here, go up here? How can I do that? Well, I'm not sure. What can we do? Well, there's a property called float, and this was used to actually create layouts. So you can imagine like you can do these on divs as well, on elements as well, on anything that you want. So what you can do is I can grab the box 2 and I can say float. Let's try what happens. What happens if I float it on the left side? All right, that's some weird things happening here. This kind of breaks. As you can see, the border goes up. What happens if I do on the right? All right, the content kind of flows over on this side. And if you don't know which box is which, let's kind of add some background colors to them. So box 2 is going to have a background, or we can actually just add a title for in now to make this a bit more clear. So let's remove some text from here, let's remove some text from here, and let's remove some text from here, and we'll just add a H to box 1, like that, and box 2, and box 3. Okay, perfect. So when we add on the box 2 a float to the right, it goes on the right side. Okay, so that's what I kind of want. I want this to go up here. And the way you can do that is you can get the box 1 and float that on the left. So when you do that, you have the box 1 here and the box 1 there. So basically you can kind of imagine where you want your content to be. If I switch this over right and left and hit save, now the box floated to the right side and the box 2 floated to the left side. So this is how you can kind of position things the way you want. However, there's one problem. This one breaks, as you can see. And this was a big issue, and this is why I don't recommend it, just because it's very hard to style things this way. And you also have this issue where the height collapses and things just don't go the way you want. As you can see, we have the box 1, box 2, and that's it. This box 3 gets cut off. So the way you need to fix this is to add a clear, all right? Because what happens now is all of the content down below, so box 3, tries to be put up here next to the box 1. So let's change this back. Let me say left and right and hit save. And let's try to make this a bit smaller to see if we can see the results. So as you can see, you have these weird things going on here. So to fix this, all you have to do is go below the boxes that you added the float on, and then you need to clear it. So what we can do is create a class called clear, like this, and just add clear both and hit save. So now if I introduce this down below, so after the box 2, I'll just add a clear. This is gonna fix all of our issues. Okay, so there we go. It's a bit weird. So what you need to do is just add float left and float right to the elements and then clear. So the other content that you have does not break. Okay, but this is so weird. And if we have something more complex, this can get tricky. And also making this responsive and nice can also be tricky. As you can see, as long as it doesn't have space, it does jump down there, which is pretty good, but it's still not that great. All right, there we go. Super awesome. So now what I would want to do is maybe change this and don't add this max width. Maybe we can do 50%, 50% width, 50%. Let's see what happens. Okay, the content jumps down here because we also added we also added some margins. So if we remove the margins, now it's perfectly stuck up there. So if you want to exactly split this up, now you have to take into consideration like how much space you want in here. So maybe I want to do 48% just to leave a bit of space hanging there like that. And then maybe we can add a bit of margin. So I can say margin of like 0.5%. All right, there we go. So we also have a bit of spacing. And also in the boxes, maybe we can add a bit of a padding. Let's do 1 rem. All right, so these are not stuck all the way up there. And then we can continue on with the box 3. So maybe on the box 3, I want this to stretch all the way. So I can say width 100%. And now it stretches all the way. Okay, so now this is a way that you can create some layout. So let's throw together a simple page here just to experiment with this and kind of mess around with this. So let's get rid of everything here. And another thing I want to show you is something with the height. So by default, the HTML and the body tag are going to take the height of the content that you have. So as you can see, it takes the height of the content that you have. So if you try to add maybe on a box 1, if you try to add a height of 100%, you're going to see that nothing happens. And the reason why nothing happens is because well, it tries to take the height of the body, which already is the height of the content. So there's nothing to stretch, right? So maybe we just have this, let me just illustrate this a bit more clearly. Maybe we just have this box 1, right? So if we take a look at the box 1 height, it's just the height of the content. And if we try to add height 100%, well, that's not going to do anything because the body's height is already the size of the content. So it's like useless. So a way you can fix this is you can extend the HTML and the body's height. So you can say HTML body, and you can set that the height 100%. And now, as you can see, the bodies and the HTML's height extends all the way down, right? So now on the box, we also have 100% because we defined it here. So if I add 50, now it's going to be 50% of the body's height. Okay, so this is a quick hack that you can do, but we're going to introduce some better methods that we can do this rather than adding HTML body 100%. But I want to clarify this as well, just for you to know. So let's remove everything and let's start off building out something simple. So let's just throw together like a navigation that we might have. So I'm going to full screen this. Let's go down here. And what I'm going to do is just start off with a header. All right. And in this header, we're going to have a navigation. So we're going to throw in a logo here, which is going to be a H1 logo. Now I'm also going to give it an ID of logo. Perfect. Underneath, we're going to throw an unordered list. And here we have our anchor tags. So LIA, all right, just to keep the semantics correct. And I'm going to duplicate this 2 more times. I'm going to add the hashtag here, just so it doesn't actually bring us anywhere. Okay, here we're going to have home. This is going to be about, and this is going to be contact. Perfect. Okay. Underneath, let's do maybe a big image underneath, all right? Some sort of hero image. So we can create a section like this. And in this section, we can also have a header. So we can say header. And here we can have a H2 that's going to say, let's make it about some kind of cooking thing. Cooking, the cooking, the cooking master, all right? And underneath here, let's throw a H3 that's gonna say cooking, I don't know what I want to say, by our homemade bakery. All right, and let's also, all right, that's gonna be good. I'm happy with that. And we're gonna keep this simple like this. Perfect. And you know what? Let's actually get rid of the header, and we're also going to throw a button underneath just to keep this a bit more simple. Button, we're going to say buy and hit save. I'm also going to add a class of hero to this, our hero section. And underneath, let's do maybe a form. So we can do a section, and this is going to be called I'm going to add a class of form section to this. We can also do a hero section just to keep everything consistent and hit save. Okay, and this, I'm gonna have a header that has a H2 and it's gonna say contact us. Hit save, and underneath the header, we are gonna throw in a form. I'm gonna remove the action for now because this is not really gonna do anything for us. And here I'm just gonna drop a label for name, and after this, let's write name in here. After this, we're gonna also drop in an input with a type text. Perfect, so we can now duplicate this 2 more times like this. We can change this for email, and we can say email, and here we can input type email, that's good. And we can also add on these inputs, I forgot to add a name that's gonna say name. On this one, name is gonna be email. And let's also add an ID of name input. And here we can add an ID of email input. Perfect. Let's hit save on that. Everything is clear. And finally, maybe we have a label for a message. message, and this is going to be just a text area with a name of message, an ID of message. There we go. And actually we need to change these here. We're gonna say for name input and for email input. Where is it? For email input, all right? And we can do message input here as well. Okay, let's copy and paste. Lovely, hit save. Okay, we have everything that we need. Okay, so take a look. This is what we have. Looks lovely. Let's go to our CSS. Let's remove the additional code. And all I have here is just the margin padding and the box sizing and the font size on the HTML. Lovely. Okay, so let's start off maybe with doing some simple things, maybe some global things that we can adjust, such as the size of our H1, of our H2s, of our headings, and maybe anchor tags. So what we can do is take the H1, add a font size of 2.8 rem. Hit save. All right, that's fine. Let's also get the H2 and just the H2. This is going to be a font size of 4.5 rem. All right, these are going to be the big sections on our page. Maybe smaller, 3.6 is going to be fine. Okay, there we go. I also want to add a bit of a padding to these. So let's do 5 rem top and bottom, maybe 3. And 0 rem left and right. Okay, just to space them out. Let's do 5. Save. Okay, perfect. So let's kind of focus on this one first, on the upper corner. Let's also add an li here. So we remove some basic stylings. Actually, we can grab the a tag here, because if you try to change the color of this, it's not gonna work. If I say li and add a color of red, nothing's gonna happen. So we specifically need to change the anchor tag because that's what gives the color to these, not the li. So these are laid inside the a tag, but to change them, we specifically need to select that. So let's add a color of black to this, and we might change this if we want. And let's remove the text decoration, and we say none, and that's gonna remove the underline there. Okay, let's also change the font size. Let's do 2.4 rem. Let's see. That's good. All right, I'm happy with that. Let's zoom out. Okay, and I also want to... Okay, so that's kind of it for now. And is there something else? The H3, we can change that too. So let's do H3. Let's give this a font size of 2.8 rem. That's good. And also the button, we give this a font size of 1.8 rem. Hit save. Okay, so that's good. Now what I want to do is start making this nav. So I'm gonna go all the way down here and I'm gonna select my nav. I'm gonna throw a background color on it. Let's just pick out something here. Shall we go dark? Let's go dark, some bluish dark color here. All right, something like this, okay? And now what I want to do is actually change the color of these. So I can say color white, because that's kind of hard to see. Okay, and as you can see, we also specifically need to change it on our anchor tags. So I'm gonna actually go up here and change this to white. Now I'm changing everything, so all the anchor tags to white. So if I have any other one, those are going to be white too, and if I have it on the white background, you cannot see it. So in case you want to add additional ones and you cannot see it, don't panic. It's because we globally changed it up here. Okay, so if you remember, how we can move these is by using floats. So I can go down here, I can select nav H1, and I can say float left because I want this to be on the left side. Okay, now this kind of moves in a weird way here. So what I want to do is say nav, and I'm going to select the UL, and I want to float that right. All right, and now this breaks our height, so everything collapses in a weird way, but as you can see, it's kind of in the perfect position that we want it to be. So if I can drag this over, you're going to see that we have the home there and we have the logo. So the position is good, but it broke our height. So if you remember, we can go up here and just add a clear pseudo class, and we can say clear both. In our HTML, we can just add this class of clear right underneath here. So right underneath where you are finished with your floats. So I added the H1, the UL, and right after that, we add the clear. Okay, and boom, everything works the same way. Now, as you can see, our li tags here are also in a block style, and I want them to be one next to each other. So we can also grab that nav li, and we can float those as well. Let's add a float to the left, and boom, there we go. We have one next to each other. We can add some margins to them, or paddings. Let's add a little margin here. And we're only gonna do it left and right. So the first one's gonna be 0, and the second one is gonna be 3, or we can do 4. There we go. I also want to remove those dots underneath. I don't want those. So what we can do is on the UL, we can say list style, and we can say none, and that's gonna get rid of it. Perfect. So now I can maybe add a bit of space in between these, so I can go up here to the nav and add some padding to this. We can do 3 rem. All right, so that adds some padding all the way across here. Okay, so there we go. That's a simple way that you can create a nav. Is this the right way? I have better methods to show you after we finish this section. This is a pain, to be honest. But hey, let's continue. Why not? So we have this section here now with the hero, this one. Okay, so what we can do is get that hero section, and let's get an image, hero section. And what I want to do is add a background image to this. How can I add a background image? Well, let's go and explore and find an image. Let's go on Pexels. I'm going to open the file here, and hopefully the internet works today. Let's do something with food, bakery. Let's search. Pexels is slow today. There we go. Let's scroll down here. Maybe we can use this one. Okay, so let's get this one. We can do the large, that's fine. Hit download. And I'm just going to drop it in here for now. Now you can create folders to make everything nice, but for now, it's going to be fine. Okay, we can go back to our CSS. Can I close this? Do I have enough space? No. Okay, never mind. No, close. There we go. So to add a background image, all we have to do, let me make more space here. All we have to do is say background dash image. And here we can say URL and add some quotes, and we can drop in the image, burger vegetables. There we go, take a look. We have the background image, perfect. That's exactly what I want. However, this is kind of small, so we can increase the height of this if we want. So let's go here and just add a random height. Let's do 30 rem. Let's see, okay, that's still too small. Let's do like 100 rem. Rem. Okay, so something large like this. 80. There we go. I don't want this to cover everything. So perfect. So we have this, but as you can see, this doesn't look that great. So a way you can change that is by adding a background position. If we change the background position, we can move the image up, left, right, or bottom. So if I say top, it's going to move it to the top of the image. If I say center, it's going to drop it in the center, and if I say bottom, it's going to go all the way down. Okay, but this still doesn't look that great, so what we can also do is, let me remove this, is add a background position, not background position, my apologies, background size, and we can modify this as well. If we add cover, you're going to see that it says scale the image while preserving its intrinsic aspect ratio. So if we add this, as you can see, we see most of the image, and when we scale it down, you're gonna see that it scales and it keeps the aspect ratio. All right, so that's a good step right there. We can also change the position if we want, maybe center, background position, and say center. Okay, let's see how that looks. Okay, I'm kind of happy with that because I want to see the burger and these chips, so that's good. Okay, so we have that. Now, what we can do actually is we can just align everything here to the middle. So how can we align everything to the middle? What we can do is go here and just say text align, and we can say center. And as you can see, that drops it perfectly in the center. We can push down the content. Let's just change the color to white for now, like that, and let's drop it to the center. So what we can do is add a padding top of 10 rem. Hit save, that drops it down here. We can drop it more, let's say 15, perfect. Okay, so what I can also do is style this a bit nicer because it doesn't look that good. And also, it's kind of hard to see the white, especially if you have something a bit lighter color. It's going to be way more difficult for you to see this. So one thing that you can do is add a text shadow. And by adding a text shadow, this takes 3 parameters. It's going to say 3 pixels, 3 pixels, 3 pixels, and a color. I'm going to say black, and I'm going to explain everything. So the first one and the second one is going to be the position of it. So if I change this to 10, as you can see, it moves it 10 pixels to the right. So the shadow now is to the right. Now I don't want this to be as large, so I'm going to keep it 3, so it's quite close to the white one, so it gives that nice contrast. This works in y-axis, so if I add 10 here, it's going to move it down this way, and minus is going to move it up that way. Okay, so I'm going to keep it fairly close with 3 pixels, and this property is going to increase basically the radius of the blur. So if I add something big like 10, it's going to get more and more blurry, so it's not that sharp looking. So this is fine, I think. It's pretty good compared to this. This is a bit harder to read next to this. This kind of comes out a bit more, so that's good. Next up, what I want to do is I want to maybe push this button down a bit and style it a bit nicer. So what I'm going to do is go to Hero section, and I'm going to say button. Okay, and this one is going to have a padding of, let's do 2 rem and 4 rem. Hit save. There we go. That's what we have. Maybe we can make this larger, like 6, so it's a bit wider. Let's do 4, or maybe 4 and 1. All right, I don't want it extremely large. That's good. And we can also add a margin top here of 1 rem. All right, maybe more. 3 or 4. There we go, just to give it a bit more space. Let's remove the background. We can add this background that we had up here just to kind of match the design. So I'm going to copy it from up there to here, and we're going to remove the border. We're going to say border none to get rid of the ugly border. We're going to change the color of it to white so we can see the text. Perfect. And lastly, what I want to do, now as you can see, this kind of blends with the background, so that's not that great. Let's change the cursor to pointer. So what you want to do is have a pretty nice contrast in between these, the image and the button here. So one thing you can do is either change the color of this, or maybe add an image that's not so dark, because if I change this to something more like this, now it's more visible. And you know what, we can actually add a custom one here. What am I changing? All right, let me go back here. Oh, I forgot the semicolon, so it broke all my code. Maybe we can do something more visible like this. Okay, so that's way better. All right, so that's what we have. That's the section. And on the contact one, let's move down there. What we can do is also text align this to the center, so we can get the form section. We can say text align center. Let's take a look what that does. All right, so it aligns this to the center. Now we can get the form like this. And as you can see, these are kind of displayed in line, and this is not something we want to do. So what we can do is come down here and we can get the form input and the labels and the text areas. So I'm basically selecting all of them, and make sure to add form to all of these. So form input, the form label, and the form text area. And we can grab all of these and add a display of block. All right, and now they're gonna be one underneath each other. Okay, so as you can see, the text gets aligned here, but the inputs don't. So the way you can align that as well is, let's get the form input, and we can add a margin of auto to this. Let's see, does that work? Okay, so that works. We can also do that to the form text area. Like that. Hit save. Let's go down here, and that aligns everything as well. Let's also just get the, we can add a font size here. Font size 2.4 rem, hit save. There we go, that's way better, way larger. Let's also add some space in between these. So let's go here and add we need margin on top. So we can add another one here, 2 rem. So this is only gonna apply to top and bottom, but this is gonna take care of aligning it in the center. So if we hit save, now we have more space. And finally, we can maybe add it to the button as well. Form button, and we can add a margin bottom of 2 rem. Hit save, and there we go. We have more space, or something big like 5. All right, way better. 10. We are ambitious. Okay, perfect. That's what we want. So now we can style this the way we want. For the button, we can also copy everything from here. So let's copy the padding, background, border, and color and cursor. Okay, and bring it down here. Hit save, and now we have that. Lastly, what I want to do is come here and add a width to all of them, something like 50%, so they match the same size. As you can see, it takes up half of the size of the screen, so that's good. But we added it. Let's just add this to the input and the text area actually. Let's bring it down here. Let's see how that looks. Okay, so that looks good. We can also add it to the button. So let's add a width of 50% to the button. So kind of matches the whole flow here. So there we go. That's how we can kind of throw together a website. Now, is this responsive? Kind of, but not really. As you can see, when we go down here, that kind of drops there. It doesn't look that nice. And yeah, if this would be smaller, this would be super squished together here. So there are still a few issues here. And also just making this layout is a bit, it's just not that fun using these floats and then clearing things. So next up, we are gonna take a look at some better ways of doing things. So I apologize if this video was a bit long, but hopefully you learned a few things here. And also, as you can see here, I forgot to point this out. These anchor tags here are not perfectly aligned with the logo here. As you can see, they're a bit more up there. So what you need to do now with this style is to kind of match the padding. So add the same amount of paddings and the same amount of margins or paddings, so they're perfectly centered here. Okay, but again, this is kind of hard, so it would be nice if you would have a better tool to make these layouts. And this is actually a very simple layout. It's a one column layout. We don't have multiple sections here that's coming one to the left and one to the right. It's just kind of everything dropping beneath each other. This is kind of the only two column layout we did with the logo and the UL here. So we had to float this. Other than that, we didn't really have to float anything else. Okay, stop talking, Ed. Show us the good stuff.